Has my mother and father moved in yet? Ben made the independent decision to move in with me without asking permission. He was completely useless. I feel like he never wants to hear what I have to say. He acts independently and moves forward with things based on his own thoughts. He hasn't asked me where he is, and he has just inquired about the situation over the phone thus far. Although I had previously been let down by Ben, it was because of that individual that I was able to change my viewpoint. Yes, everything is done. I recently moved into a unit in a high-rise. What? Beside me, with my son Aaron, I laughed at his surprised voice. He hadn't noticed anything because he'd left everything up to me. What is meant by a high-rise condominium? A high-rise condominium is exactly what it sounds like. I then hung up the phone. Ben contacted me the following day. He had apparently stopped in the middle of a journey with his dear parents to come see our place. Nothing is present here. The luggage is where? Where might it be located? What are you saying? And where might it be? Please ask that person directly for more information. I heard an angry voice on the other end of the phone after saying that. I'm a homemaker of 57 years old. In my previous role, I was a top performer in sales, securing numerous contracts when I was younger. In my department, I was dependable. But after a lot of conversations and debates, Ben, who was once both my trainer and boss, asked me to resign. Ben admitted that we were married after dating for a few years because our ages were similar. With the assurance that he would never allow me to struggle, he requested me to give up my work and devote myself to the family. So even though I had a lot of regrets after getting married, I quit. When I gave birth to our son Aaron at the age of 33, I thought I was living a lovely family life. I was frequently annoyed by Ben's excessive attention to Aaron, which occasionally went to the extent of spoiling him. However, I didn't get along well with my in-laws, particularly with Diane, my mother-in-law, with whom I frequently differed on how to raise Aaron, which led to a tense relationship. Aaron started university at this time, gained independence, and moved out on his own. Ben grudgingly consented, provided that he made frequent visits. It was only the two of us after that. But Ben began giving his own parents the money he used to spend on Aaron. Even though there was nothing wrong with that, the upscale clothing, travel, and food purchases persisted. There was no issue because Aaron didn't need them, but our finances began to suffer because of my mother-in-law, who would grab anything she could obtain. So where's my $11,000 that I left here? My mother mentioned she needed a wallet, so I used it. What topic are you discussing? It's for the rent, which is why I instructed you not to touch it. Stop talking. It's money I earned for myself. Is it wrong to use it whatever I please? You, a housewife, have no right to complain. Ben raises his voice in protest every time I mention money. Ben likes to refer to me as a housewife when we argue. It was you who suggested that I become a housewife. Your unemployment is a known fact. Do not whine if you are unable to earn. I'll go get a part-time job if you don't like that I'm jobless. Hey, stop making jokes. I'm going to seem foolish if I let my wife work outside. Such viewpoints are still held by some people today. Ben, who took unnecessary pride in himself, refused to let me work outside. He came shrieking at me when I started working covertly since his mother had told him where I was working. I was forced to start working from home as I couldn't even take on a part-time job under such conditions. The revenue was little at first, but it grew over time, and I was able to make ends meet by paying for living expenses. To be honest, if the money keeps coming in, I might think about divorcing Ben eventually. I was working from home when all of a sudden the doorbell rang. My mother-in-law was waiting there when I opened the door because I thought it might be a delivery, even though I wasn't expecting any guests. "Hello, is there a problem?" "There is nothing wrong. You're so closed off." She stormed inside the home, yelling. Once more, the word shut in made me feel disgusted. My mother-in-law had advised me to give up my career and become a housewife when I was working. But once I married and retired, she began blaming me in this way. You dare to defy your husband because Ben is earning money, which is how you can support yourself. She would not even hear me out, and she would not stop hitting me until she was happy. Just when I felt that this circumstance was making it impossible for me to focus on my work. Diane, how many times do I need to say it? Give up bothering Cindy. I'm sorry Diane is bothering you again, darling Cindy. Henry, my father-in-law, had arrived to bring my mother-in-law home. He has always been sensible, and in retirement he has been keeping my overbearing mother-in-law in check and gardening. Upon his return from gardening today, he noticed that my mother-in-law was absent and worriedly came over. He had frequently assisted me. When will my grandchild be here? Once, my mother-in-law inquired. Cindy won't feel like having children at all if you keep pressuring her in that way. He had supported me through my infertility struggles and eased my mother-in-law's burden. My father-in-law saved Aaron from my mother-in-law's grasp after he was born, when she attempted to remove him from me. This youngster is a priceless heir. I'll bring him up. Please return Aaron to him. Speaking of which, my father-in-law, sensing that my mother-in-law would become too controlling, also discarded the cohabitation plan that had been put forth at the time. Ben had supported his mother and desired to live with her, but my father-in-law was able to remind Ben that he was the spouse. Put your wife and child first, and we may avoid living together. I might not have suffered from my mother-in-law's abuse if I had lived with her. I have a lot of gratitude for my father-in-law. I've been able to keep a healthy distance from my in-laws because of him. I was getting frustrated with life with Ben when I got the unexpected news that my mother had died. My sister had been taking care of her because she had a chronic ailment. My sister and I inherited a sizable sum of money because my father died young, and my mother didn't touch his belongings. How are you going to handle your parents' house? Ben inquired. My sister said she would give it to me if I wanted it. She has her own house. So, how about relocating to your parents' house? As we were going through the inheritance, he made a suggestion. My parents' house is quite old, but we currently rent it. Indeed. What if you moved after making renovations? I recommended. How are you going to pay for the renovations? Ben queried. I'll make use of the inheritance, I answered. Ben doesn't know the precise amount of the bequest from me. Could he give it to his mother if he knew it was a lot? I've only told him about the renovation expenses because I don't think there will be an issue. Then, Ben agreed. I felt relieved inside. Moving to my parents' home would mean being long distance from my in-laws. That means I could also keep a distance from the problematic mother-in-law. With that in mind, I began actively preparing to move. The renovations were eventually completed, and I moved to my parents' home. What's this? I thought, because there were more boxes than expected. The moving company handled it, but I was surprised by the amount. While having my suspicions, I opened a box of unrecognizable luggage and found my mother-in-law's clothes inside. Ben, there's a box here packed with your mother's clothes. What's this all about? I asked. Did I forget to tell you? My parents and I are going to live in this house together. What? I was astonished. I was dumbfounded by this sudden announcement. Why do we need to live with my in-laws in my parents' house? I couldn't help but argue with Ben. I didn't hear anything about this. The renovation using the inheritance was meant for us to live together. Shut up. I've already decided. Ben raised his voice and pulled out a document. Holding the document, I was shocked. A divorce paper. If you oppose it, it's divorce. How will you live if you leave me, an unemployed woman? Ben said. The divorce paper already had Ben's signature on it. Well, I stood there stunned. Ben started packing his travel bag with clothes. Pack up the luggage and prepare for my parents' move by the time I get back. Wait, where are you going? I asked. I'm going on a little trip. I sold my parents' house, so I'll use that money. I'll stay at my parents' house for 2 or 3 days, then go on a luxurious trip for a week. Ben answered and left. I was left feeling the worst. The cohabitation was decided without my consent. He left the bothersome task of sorting things to me and went on a trip with his parents. At that moment, I decided to retaliate thoroughly. During the preparations to move, I spread the insecticide I had stored throughout the house and left. I am very averse to insects, and although I knew the renovated house was safe, I had bought the insecticide just in case. As I looked at the divorce paper in my hand, the phone suddenly rang. That call led me to make a significant decision. Aaron, it's been a while. Mom, what's up? I contacted Aaron and received some help from him. 3 hours later, an unwelcome call from my mother-in-law came. You made me go through something terrible. What? It turned out that my mother-in-law had borrowed a spare key from Ben and entered the house without permission just after I had spread the insecticide. She almost fell off from breathing in the air. She threatened, I'll sue you. I felt it was karma. It's a far bigger issue to enter someone's house without permission. I reported and hung up the phone. Since she's still lively enough to complain over the phone, she must be fine despite inhaling the insecticide. Thinking about cutting ties with such a family made me feel relieved. A week later, when everything had settled, Ben, who hadn't contacted me at all, reached out. Are my dad and mom's move finished? Ben decided on his own that we would live together without consulting me, and he didn't help at all. He never seems to want to listen to my opinion. He proceeds with things based on his own ideas and acts on his own. Even now, he only asked about the situation over the phone, but I don't even know where he is. I had been disappointed in Ben before, but it was thanks to that person that I finally made up my mind. Yes, it's all finished. I just moved into a high-rise condo myself. What? Hearing his surprised voice, I laughed with my son Aaron, who was next to me. He had left everything up to me, so he hadn't noticed anything. What do you mean with a high-rise condo? A high-rise condo means just that, a high-rise condo. With that, I ended the call. Finally, I was able to cut ties with Ben. My gratitude for the people who cooperated with Aaron was immeasurable. Thinking back, I headed to the sparkling new kitchen to prepare a special meal for Aaron. That day, when I told Aaron everything over the phone, he came to help right away. It's good you could come, but is work okay? No problem. I explained the situation, and they told me to go right away. Aaron works in real estate, and his company was started by a college senior. Since he had helped since his student days, it seems they understood immediately when he explained the situation. Mom, I need you to finish the contract today or tomorrow. I understand. So I completed the necessary procedures and was able to move into the new high-rise condo. Today, as I was preparing for the celebration, Ben contacted me. Just imagining the reaction of my selfish husband and meddling mother-in-law when they visit the new home excites me. Hey, what's this? The next day, Ben contacted me again. Apparently, he had ended a trip with his beloved parents in the middle to come and see our house. There's nothing here. Where is the luggage? Where could it be? What do you mean? Where could it be? For details, please ask that person directly. After saying that, I could hear a voice of anger from the other end of the phone. Enough with the jokes. Ben let out a small scream, hearing that voice, and trying to suppress my laughter, Aaron appeared. Cindy, I'm sorry for the trouble my family has caused. Soon after, I heard my father-in-law's voice from the other end of the phone. They seemed to be on speaker, and I could faintly hear Ben and my mother-in-law's voices as well. It's okay. You supported me. What's that? I sent your luggage to another location the day Ben left the house. It was my father-in-law who contacted me. He first apologized for not being able to stop the unilateral actions of Ben and my mother-in-law. Then he said he would handle them and decided to send their luggage to the specified address. Thanks to the movers arranged by my father-in-law, the luggage transfer went smoothly. So, what will happen to this house? After explaining everything, I heard Ben's voice of confusion. I sold that house. What? You sold it? Why would you do something like that on your own? That house was inherited by me. My sister didn't want it, so she agreed it was okay to sell, and I decided to sell it. What's the problem? The house was well located and had been beautifully renovated, so it quickly found a buyer. In fact, Aaron Sr. liked it and immediately offered to buy it. As a result, the house was already owned by its new owner. Isn't that a bit too selfish, Ben? Which mouth of yours can say such things? It was you who decided everything without listening to Cindy's opinion. Now I will show you where you two will live. Wait a moment. What do you mean by you two? I've had enough of Diane. Hopefully this way you'll understand. In the calm tone of my father-in-law, I could sense my mother-in-law's surprise. She was probably under my father-in-law's sharp gaze. Dad and Grandma, you're underestimating Mom too much. At that moment, Aaron, standing next to me, said as calmly as my father-in-law, I've heard everything from Mom. Why should my mom, who renovated the house after receiving it from Grandma and Auntie, have to give it to you guys? Dad, you must know how Grandma has been treating Mom. Despite that, why would you consider living together? That's no way to speak to your father. Just giving orders and expecting obedience, is that what a father does? You ignored Mom's opinions, and sometimes mine too, didn't you? Honestly, I don't want to be a father like you, and I don't want my loved ones to meet people like Grandma. The direct words from Aaron, whom they had doted on, left them speechless. After that, I could hear my father-in-law sighing on the other end of the phone. I'm truly sorry, Cindy, he said, and then he ended the call. Just before the call ended, I heard surprised voices from Ben and my mother-in-law. With that, my father-in-law will probably handle those two. By the way, this high-rise condo is really wonderful, isn't it? Yes. I was hoping I could live here someday. The purchase of this high-rise condo was smoothly financed with the money from selling the house, my savings from when I was single, and the remaining inheritance. It looks like I will be able to live off the income from my work-at-home job. It seems like we'll have peaceful days ahead for a while. You know, I actually valued Mom over Dad because you taught me proper things, even though you were strict. According to Aaron, while Ben would buy him anything he wanted, he seldom provided strict guidance and rarely listened to him. Even when he talked about school, Ben would just say, I see, and not engage seriously, always suggesting, let's go shopping next holiday, only wanting to go where he wanted. More than Ben, it was important for me to listen carefully, sometimes scold him, and seriously consider his future. It's true that since Aaron got through his rebellious phase, he occasionally gave Ben cold looks. I also remember when Ben was criticizing me, Aaron would intervene as if to protect me, saying, that can wait. We have something important to discuss now. Children are more sensitive to their parents' actions than we might think. Every time Dad said something to you, Mom, he would insult you for being unemployed, so I decided to send money to help you. Huh? I hadn't heard about that, I said. I heard it from Grandpa. Apparently, all the money I sent ended up going to Grandma. My father-in-law had long suspected my mother-in-law's extravagant lifestyle. Indeed, Ben was sending her travel vouchers and gourmet food, but that wasn't all. Aside from that, my mother-in-law was frequently enjoying luxury lunches and shopping. The gifts Ben sent every month couldn't possibly explain it all. Despite this, the shared savings remained untouched. Turns out that all the remittances from Aaron were being taken by Ben and passed directly to my mother-in-law. I can't believe it. Knowing that, I've decided I don't want anything more to do with Dad. Aaron's expression was stern, clearly indicating his resolve. He seemed to be at the peak of his anger. I no longer intend to support Dad, he said. Grandpa said he's going to divorce Grandma. That's right. As Aaron said, my father-in-law proceeded with the divorce from my mother-in-law. Afterward, my mother-in-law tried to cling to my father-in-law, but he was fed up with her and Ben's self-centered actions and coldly pushed them away. I'll split the assets, but don't expect any inheritance, my father-in-law stated decisively, deciding to spend all his available funds and move into a facility. Due to my mother-in-law's wastefulness, there wasn't much inheritance left in the first place. Afterward, my father-in-law moved into the facility, letting go of my mother-in-law and Ben. As I was finally enjoying some peaceful days, I got another call from Ben. Hey, it's me, Ben. I know. What do you want? It's really tough. Reluctantly listening to him, the wasteful spending by my mother-in-law continued as usual. Ben had used up all the money he earned, and now they were even dipping into their living expenses. Previously, I supported the household with the money I earned, and we had remittances from Aaron. But now that these were gone, they were in a difficult situation. You're my wife, aren't you? Help me. No, I'm not your wife anymore. What? The divorce papers I received that day were promptly filled out and submitted by me. That means our marital relationship had already ended long ago. Unbelievable. Why did you submit it that day? You were the one who wrote it and brought it to me, right? I just followed through and submitted it. There shouldn't be any problem. Ben was at a loss for words upon hearing my response. He probably didn't anticipate that his own actions would backfire on him. So can't we start over? What? No way. I've finally become free from you. There's no reason to go back, I responded coldly. There was a noise on the other end of the phone. It's me, Cindy. What is it, Diane? It seemed like my mother-in-law had picked up the phone. I felt a strong aversion inside me upon hearing her contrived sweet voice. I'm really sorry for being cold to you. So, do you remember how much I suffered? You tried to make me quit my job even before we were married, blamed me for not being able to have children, and tried to take Aaron away from me. If it weren't for my father-in-law helping, things would have been much worse. If you were in the same situation, do you think you could forgive me? My mother-in-law kept silent after my question. I will never forget nor forgive the treatment I received from her, and I have no intention to forgive Ben either. While you two were happily traveling, I was being ignored, wasn't I? From now on, please enjoy your wonderful lives. Goodbye. After declaring that, I hung up the phone, blocked his number, and cut off all ties with Ben and his family. Afterward, I heard that Ben and my mother-in-law were reluctantly living in a cheap apartment provided by my father-in-law. Ben had spent so much on Mother that there was hardly any savings left. He had a decent income, so he initially planned to save a bit before moving out. My mother-in-law tried to start housekeeping, but was unable to curb her spending habits and do housekeeping since she had been away from domestic chores for years, thanks to my father-in-law, who had retired and taken over the household duties while she was unaccustomed to housework. She fell and broke her leg, necessitating care. Overwhelmed with living and housework, Ben accumulated fatigue, which led to mistakes at work, resulting in an irrevocable error that eventually forced him to resign. That's why he contacted me for help. Aaron visited and reported on Ben's plight, but he declined to help him. He should have at least saved the money I sent. Indeed, but regretting it now won't help. Meanwhile, my life was progressing smoothly. Thanks to Aaron and his friends recommending me, my client base for home-based work has increased significantly, improving my income. Aaron, who used to barely visit when Ben was around, now comes by frequently. Although he offers to send money, I decline as I'm not struggling financially due to my earnings. Thanks to that, Aaron has been able to save money and has moved into the same high-rise condo. Whenever I bring over some side dishes, he is always delighted and grateful. I'm truly happy being able to work at my own pace, and having my beloved Aaron nearby makes every day immensely joyful for me. Years have passed. Today is a special day. Mom, I want to introduce someone to you. It's the day Aaron is bringing his fiancée. She is someone I've known well for a long time since she has been dating Aaron since high school. Ben doesn't know about this because it would cause trouble if he found out. Well, I doubt he would be interested anyway. Aaron is a bit too kind, so I feel reassured to entrust him to his capable fiancée. Just this time, there is a formal greeting as fiancée and mother, so both of us are somewhat nervous. We know each other, so relax. By the way, there's something important I need to tell you. To my surprise, she was already pregnant with Aaron's child. That's what led to a prompt marriage. But seeing them so happy, I sent my heartfelt blessings. Determined not to become like my mother-in-law, I decided to support them while maintaining a healthy distance. Thanks to such measures, I feel that the relationship with my daughter-in-law is being well maintained. Occasionally, they come to show me their child's face, and we have been going out more frequently without burdening each other. Contrarily, I am unaware of the current situation of Ben and my mother-in-law, as they have been abandoned by others. One's actions ultimately return to oneself. I must act carefully with this awareness. I continue to work and handle household chores within my limits, enjoying a peaceful daily life.